And that right there is the example that I want to follow.
Yeah.
Not the person who's like, oh, I got it figured out. I'm good. I've arrived. No, I want to be till my very last dying breath. How can I keep improving myself? Because the competition is not with others. It's with my damn self.
Welcome to the In the Arena podcast. My name is Jared Miguez, a co-host on this podcast that brings you the inspiring stories of our clients who are leaders and innovators across different industries in Southeast Louisiana. They are visionary entrepreneurs, savvy real estate professionals, media creators, military business owners, and community champions. And we are going to showcase the remarkable achievements and share their personal stories. Tune in for insightful conversations, valuable lessons, and motivational stories that are going to reveal their secrets to success and offer you insights to help you on your own path. Welcome to In the Arena podcast.
Welcome to the In the Arena podcast. This is going to be a great conversation because this is going to put a different perspective on how you can scale your business, not only in business in general, but in the real estate business. And so very thankful to have my friend Courtney Fricke here.
Our co-host. So you're
Yeah.
wearing a different hat today, her guest hat, or
Yeah, my
her really
guest
good
hat.
arena hat.
I wore my arena hat today. No, thank you guys for having me. It's fun to be on this side of it.
Yeah, I'm excited to ask you some questions and get you to answer some things that I think are, like I said, our business owners are going to really value. Because a lot of business owners think that in order to scale, you have to have 100 employees and you have to have 18 locations, but you've proven to grow your business without that. So let's just talk a little bit about who you are at first, so the people who don't know who you are, they get to know you. So
The woman, the myth, the legend.
Yeah.
Courtney.
I call it the legend, the wizard of real estate investing. You call it a little different stuff, and you call it a solutions-based real estate investor.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what that means to you.
Sure. So it's actually funny. So as a real estate investor who's not licensed, but I'm a lot of times in rooms where, I'm with realtors, title companies, lenders, insurance. For the longest time, they had a little name tag. Actually, I have one in my pocket from an event I was at earlier, like the little, magnetic ones.
Yeah.
For the longest time, I didn't have one. So I would have the cheap, name tag, paper one or whatever.
Right.
And I didn't know what to put on it. And so I had an aha moment where that aha moment was like, real estate investor felt too vague or it didn't encompass my skill set well. And I was like, I can put that. And everyone's always like, who are you with? I'm like, what do you mean? I'm with myself. Like I'm not, and I have companies and I've got like a business name and I used to share those logos and those names. I'm like, no one cares what, Deep Roots Property Solutions. Like the brand has really for a long time been me. And so I'm like, I'm with me.
Right.
But for the longest time, again, I was like, I want to kind of put something there so people know what I do. And I had an aha moment. And so I added on there, the solutions-based real estate investor on it. And so I learned to get these. By the way, I learned the trick is you have to get 10 of them because one of them got stuck to something metal in my car and I can never find it. And so, you have to have
You can stash them.
Yeah, you got you've got like 3 for the car, 3 in my book bag, 3 for wherever.
Yeah.
But solutions-based investing for me it's the idea that I'm here to help first, not just let me lowball you to death. And my background is in the nonprofit mission sector. A lot of people don't know I didn't go to college. Instead, I worked on the mission field, both at a missions agency in Texas for 3 years, sending thousands of people every year to 28 different countries. And I went to over 20 countries myself, either, as a missionary or in an operational leadership role, leading a team of missionaries. Yeah. So doing stuff, I lived overseas for a year in Thailand doing that stuff. So my heart's always been to help. And that translates a lot to, hey, I'm here to help. And I don't necessarily have to be the solution you go with, but I want to be able to hold my head high. Here's the test that I have. If I deal with someone, whether it's a real estate agent and their client, or it could be the attorney and their client, a lender and their client, or just a straight seller themselves, whether it's a civilian or an investor who has an issue, when I'm dealing with them, my goal is I want to be, by the end of it, the test is if I go to Rouse's or something and I run into them, I want to be able to hold my head high and say, hey, I dealt with it with a level where they felt like I listened, I helped, and I wasn't just there to be transactional and to take.
Yeah.
And so for me, solutions-based is being focused on, hey, what's the problem and how can I help? And I don't have to be involved in the transaction to help. So I'm not greedy in the sense where you can't have my knowledge without it, resulting in me being, paid.
Yeah.
And And it's just a different way. I mean, not a lot of investors operate that way, but just fine.
Amen.
It's just a different model. It's a different, it's a choice, right? But that's really how I define myself, because again, I don't want to be labeled like I just go lowball everyone and I don't care and I'm just going to take the shirt off your back.
Yeah. So the one of the things you've always told me, and I think that it's great, is that you also don't pigeonhole yourself into one way of investing in real estate deals. So, like, you'll have the person who does the burst strategy, or they do the subject to strategy, or they just do the fix and flip, and they kind of pigeonhole themselves in that one niche. But you have figured out how to diversify what you do, and you always say, I have a whole bunch of different tools in my tool belt so I can address the situation in a bunch of different ways. How did you develop that skill set over the years?
Yeah, I think it's important. I used to say I was an agnostic towards different strategies, like in the sense of I wasn't committed to just one. I will say there is power to having a niche, especially when it comes to marketing and branding yourself, because that's also the hard part. Yeah. I mean, I've got a friend who all he does is land. And I'm like, man, and specifically he does a lot with like subdividing land. And I'm like, man, like that is a real easy message. What I mean?
Right.
For me, for the longest time, it was hard to get clear telling people what I do because I did a lot. So how did I develop those skills? It honestly came out of necessity. Really, when I got started in the industry, I got in the industry in 2014. So 2014 moving into, we're now in 25. I mean, the market though was going up.
Yeah, sure.
And so when the market, I mean, you've got the wind against your back, you can touch the Midas touch and, properties are going up in value. It was hard to find deals. And so eventually I learned I had to get good at something to basically, deals aren't found, they're created. So that was a lesson I learned. And I did not have any tools to begin with to create stuff. So then I just started learning from people who were down further along the path and learning that, hey, if I learned how to handle foreclosures, well, then I could, get properties at a discount where the numbers would make sense for me, because I was solving their problem. Well, I had to go learn the foreclosure process to do that. Yeah. And that generally came with either a quick, fast cash offer or creative financing. So then I had to go learn, how to have consistent cash available, and then how to, and then also creative
people with
financing.
consistent cash available.
Exactly. The different forms of that. So a lot of it came from, I have this belief that the current deals you do are based on your mindset, which is what you believe you can do, what you believe is possible, like your exposure. A lot of people, they're really stuck at that
Limited
mindset.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't have the money, or, my pockets aren't, full of money, or I don't know how to invest, or I don't know how to stop a foreclosure. I don't know how to buy a property with creative financing or whatever. So it's this mindset that what is possible and, what you're exposed to. But then the second part is your skill set. It's, you may know what foreclosures are or creative financing is or whatever, but it's how do you turn that information into action? A skill set is the implementation part. Yeah. And so the current deals you're doing are a direct reflection of your current mindset and your current skill set. In the same breath, the deals you aren't doing are a reflection of your current mindset and your current skill set. And there were so many times where I hit forks in a row where I was like, I'm going to keep having to do deals like this, which is fine, but I was frustrated because I was hitting a roadblock, a ceiling. I really wanted to level up. And that forced me to go improve my mindset and improve my skill set and add to my tool belt. Yeah. And both of my mind and of actual skill sets. And so it's been critical. I mean, 10 years in and I still go to, 6 to 10 conferences a year. Yeah. I usually will read 40 to 60 books a year. Like, I'm a consistent student, but you've got to weigh that out with also taking action.
I think that's what people don't want to do. They don't want to spend the time. They don't want to surround themselves, put themselves in a room with the resources that are needed to scale and grow. But I love the take action aspect that you have of it. I'm frustrated. I'm going to freaking do something about it, right? That's the difference in people that see success versus those that stay stagnant.
Yeah. When I first got into the title business, I didn't know what I didn't know. So I had the real estate treatise next to my bed at night, and I would just open it up and read whatever page in the book I kind of flipped to to just start moving in some direction.
Yeah.
Just because I knew I needed to figure something out and be able to
action.
talk. Yeah. So,
But that was curiosity, though. And that is one of the biggest things is you need a level of curiosity of saying, hey, again, it's that it's you've got to expose yourself to what's possible, or the hunger to find out what's possible, the hunger to figure things out. One of my biggest mentors, I talk a lot of time about my gray-haired mentors who influenced me. In the first 5 years, all I learned from was the talking heads on YouTube and podcast, and which again, it's not lost to me that we're on one, but it's like a lot of the new school guys, the guys with the Lamborghini, the business owner guys, right? And they're all just like, you got to do 100 deals and own 1,000 properties, 100 deals a year or, a month or whatever. And that's all I learned from, because that's all who I knew. They were the squeakiest wheel. And but then I met what I refer to as some of my gray-haired mentors, people who've been investing since the 60s and 70s. And something in me stood up when I met them. And one of the biggest things they taught me was that they lead with being a student. And one of them's been investing since 1965, and he's attended a workshop or a class or something every month since 1965. And he still, at 77, still does that. And when not only have I heard him speak from the front a lot, but just as many times I've sat next to him, and he takes more notes than me. And I'm like, you think you've arrived?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I like thousands of deals later, you think you've arrived, but the reality
That
is
mindset never does.
and that's why he's the most prolific deal maker in America.
Correct.
Like, and that right there is the example that I want to follow.
Yeah.
Not the person who's like, oh, I got it figured out. I'm good. I've arrived. No, I want to be to my very last dying breath. How can I keep improving myself? Because the competition is not with others. It's with my damn self.
We always apply that to the business because they're like, is this ever going to be done? I'm like, no. The day that Jared or I are like, hey, y'all, we're done improving. Just slow down. We got it. I'm like, put me in an institution because something's wrong with me.
Yeah.
You gotta always excel to be better and be humble enough to know that there's some experience, something out there that you're going to learn from every person you interact with.
Absolutely.
Even if it's a negative experience, right? Condemn nothing because there's some edification to find in every experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as you, and I want to put this in perspective for some of the newer people who are wanting to get into real estate investing. If you could pick one thing that allowed you to be as successful as you are right now, what would that be?
I didn't quit. More
Simple.
than half of the secret is the staying power. Mm-hmm. There are so many times I've wanted to quit, but I said, you know what? Let me just keep at it, because the bad days happen for us all. Mm-hmm. Every level brings a different devil, as they say, and so the bad days happen. But guess what? Each and every single one of those bad days eventually moved on to where then I had good days again. And so many people are like, man, like, Courtney, I remember back when you were just getting started. Man, look where you're at now. And I'm truly thankful for the comment, right? But part of me is also like, yeah, but you could be here with me too. Like, what here is the difference? So it's the staying power, but it's doing repetitive, like, it's doing the same repetitive actions and this going in the same direction for a period of time. Yeah. The problem is so many people say, let me start digging a hole, because my goal is to, dig to China. Well, they start doing here, and then they're like, oh, wait. And then they start digging a hole over here. And then, so they're doing similar actions, but not toward the same goal.
No, they're busy. They're not being intentional. They're busy.
Yeah. And so, but they're, they might feel like, oh, well, I'm digging here, I'm digging there. It's kind of the same thing. No. If you're not digging in the same hole toward the same goal, and I kept getting to bat at the same goal. And so that is so much of it. Because so many people, not only do they give up on consistency, they lose intensity.
Yeah.
They go from digging a full shovel full to, let me get a little bit. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
I think that's the difference between like a goal and a purpose, right? Because I think some people get confused when they see you pivot. Because like recently you redesigned, what Courtney's doing in the real estate world, but it never changed what your original purpose and your original goal was, right?
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about that difference. I mean, I think everybody has to come to business with a broader purpose so that your pivots make sense, but you're still staying intentional to your purpose.
The biggest pivots I've had, I started having an identity crisis end of 2019 into 2020. So we're 5 years later, but understand it kind of took a while. It took a while. So it took a while for this to kind of, one, flesh itself out, and then the true next step became clear. But when I got started in the industry, again, the people I learned from were very business centric, who were like, you've got to scale, have all these employees, do all these deals, really was a volume thing. And as a real estate investor, and a lot of it was, flipping, wholesaling. It was like a lot of the today stuff, the today money stuff. So that's what I did. I started off flipping, and then I added in wholesaling. I was doing a ton of that. And at a certain point, I had 7 people. Most of them were like 1099, sales, different things like that, and an office. And I was spending $7,500 a month just on marketing to be able to prospect and get in front of sellers to be able to do the volume. And it worked. I mean, we were doing volume.
It works for people that it works for.
But it was nails on a chalkboard for me. That is the most consistent that I've wanted to quit, the most consistent period of time that I wanted to quit. And that's when I started having like, man, am I going in the right direction? Like, what the heck did I sign up for? And I believe everyone has to ask the question, how big do you want to build the monster? Because the monster is always going to demand to be fed. The question is, how much food do you want to bring to the table to have to feed him? Because that is the nature of business, right? And so the identity crisis I had was, I wanted to become an investor because I wanted time freedom and financial freedom. Financial freedom gives you the ability to have time freedom. And so you can't have one without the other. I did not really seek out to become a business owner. Business owner, it's a lot harder to have financial freedom as a business owner because a lot of it is, it's really hard for people to exit out of the operation. And so I had this identity crisis. I said, man, I got into real estate for time and, the financial freedom, the time freedom. And I realized I became a business person rather than an investor. First of all, I wasn't keeping a lot of the properties I was flipping and wholesaling. So that was an issue. And then I had started keeping a few. 2017, 2018, I started keeping a few. But it was a very small portion of what I was doing. And at the same time, I was like, what am I? Like, I set out a goal and I didn't even have a clear goal. And so then I went down basically the wrong path. And so the identity crisis I have was I was doing all the work of a business owner, building businesses for profit when I really wanted to invest for cash flow and equity. And so I started to shift. Thankfully, COVID, a beautiful thing of COVID that happened was it gave us the opportunity to descale because a lot of those 7 people went back to the workforce, got out of the workforce, moved, a lot of different things like that. So I think the last person I kept was I consistently had a courthouse runner who I would pay to go to the courthouse to get data for me. But other than that, for the longest time I had her, and then I pulled back even from that. And I did have someone who I had partnered with who was helping, and they were a part of those folks who were either help managing our co-owned properties and projects. They were helping with some of those. And so I had partners, and we even pulled back from our partnership where we decided, hey, let's go in a different route. Still very good friends, but I then went down to where it was just me again. And then what I did was I changed from, again, building businesses where like the goal is like, how big can we build it and profit, to then I want to focus on investing. But yet still doing 30 plus deals a year is a decent volume for an investor in the area. I'm still one of the more active investors. I'm not the most active investor in our region. So how do I handle the volume now, since I don't have support staff and, an office and things like that, is I've scaled with partnerships. And I'm friends with all of the partners I've been with, but we're not all still partners. Some of them we've pulled back from. And so through that, I've basically been able to bring on, you guys interviewed one of my partners already on the podcast, Aussie Steve Keegery. He is very much a businessman, a very successful businessman with his past ventures. But then even now with the business he's been building here in America, the running joke is he never wants to leave the office and I never want to go to it. So we're like fantastic as far as polar opposites. Yeah. And so I've been able to scale in some ways with him by utilizing his system, his back house, his staff, and then we partner on deals when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And so now part of that is just I've scaled through partnerships versus through staff because I really don't want the stress of overhead, right? Whether it's an office staff or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to be forced to do deals to cover expenses outside my family's needs, point blank. And that's really where that identity crisis came from, and I didn't really want to have staff in a company. I really said, I'm not a business owner. I'm an investor who's a specialist. So I want to be the specialist that I am and be on, someone else's team or use someone else's, team to collaborate and help.
So one of the things I think that you've done a really good job in the whole thing, I think this is a key word, is patience in the way that you've done your business and the way that you do business now. So like when you partner with Steve and you partner with these other people, by having less overhead allows you to be patient because you're not, like you said, forced to do deals. Mm-hmm. But similarly, over that period of time where you had that identity crisis, as you call it, you weren't overly aggressive in what you were doing. I think a lot of people in that time period, the rates were low. They were buying properties. They were doing the BRRRR strategy. And we know that a lot of people got overextended. And so I think this plays into it. But I want to go a little bit further into your mindset around your way you look at your business, right? Because you're looking for equity and wealth as opposed to running a business with income and cash flow in that way. But also how you look at deals and the market from a patient standpoint. Like how do you perceive that? How do you manage that when other people have a hard time doing that?
I think it's the gray-haired investors who have helped me with something along this line the best. Most new school, business-minded folks only taught me offense. Go, go, go. Buy, buy, buy. Finance to the hilt, right? So you can leverage. The gray-haired guy said, Courtney, also play defense. And that was huge. I don't know if I would still be here as an investor today in the business if I didn't have that advice. Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of people, back in the day, I used to spend tens of thousands of dollars to be in masterminds each year, in rooms with some of the biggest players in the nation. And so a lot of the guys on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, I know them personally. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them aren't in the business, or a lot of them are having to have other businesses to try to make up for where they're currently very much hurting.
Yeah.
Because they played too much offense and not enough defense. And so it's who you learn from that's really important, because 10 years into the business, this is my first changing market. So although there's something to be said about skill sets that are developed by doing volume, like I know a lot about real estate because I've done a lot of deals, but the market does impact your skill sets. It is great to be able to do a lot of those deals when the market, the sale, the wind's against your back, right? And it's helping you. But then now when you're going into the wind, right? Like when it's not helping you, it's actually working against you. That's when the real test of your skill set really comes to play. Yeah. And I think that's what we're seeing right now is, as Buffett said, when the tide goes out, you'll find out who's been swimming without their shorts on, right? And
that's hilarious.
But it's that concept of, we're now getting to see, who actually had money in the bank, who actually has money in the bank.
I hate that I saw all the people that are missing their shorts just now. I was like, oh, yep, him too.
I know that visual. But it's that visual. And so it's just one of those things where it's like, you call it patient. I think for me, it's really defense. But isn't that defense? Defense is pulling back and seeing. It's strategy.
It's strategy. It's full circle thinking. Mm-hmm. There's the person that plays defense oftentimes will be viewed as the pessimist by the person that's running. And it's like, it's not that we're running. I'm just running with a camera on each shoulder so I know what's behind me and on side of me, not just what's in front of me. Yeah. And when you have that full circle picture of what you're doing, that's what lends you to success. And I mean, it's no surprise to me that it's, the gray hair mentors that helped you, because those are the people that have the experience with that struggle.
And all the different, not just 08, because if someone's experience is only 08, that's an anomaly.
Right now is an anomaly too, right?
Exactly. They all are, but that one was like, but if that's your only one, like each market brought different.
And how often do we hear that? Like, don't worry, I went through 08.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and look, and although that is valid.
But what about the 80s?
Exactly. So truly, I mentioned I usually read 40 to 60 books a year, but right now, one of those gray-haired mentors who's unfortunately no longer alive. I never actually met him, but all my mentors were mentored by him, a man by the name of Jack Miller. He specialized in creative financing and single-family homes. So very much my bread and butter. He wrote a newsletter from October of 1978 until late 2009, right before he died. And it was every single month he wrote a newsletter. Straight up, typed it, and mailed it off to people.
That's awesome.
And I struck a deal in Florida and got the majority of his newsletters.
That's great.
And I'm actually working through I'm in the 80s right now. I could hide the date and think it was a headline from today.
Are you digitizing them? I mean, we need this, Courtney. We need this resource.
I actually am collaborating. My friends who basically bought his estates, all his education stuff from his estate, they have some of them, and I'm actually helping them with the ones they don't have. We're collaborating on that.
Nice.
But the thing is, why am I going through those? Because the 70s, the 80s, here's the thing, the economic, like the tax, the law, all that stuff may have changed, right? So like the laws and the tax codes may be different than today, but I don't necessarily care about that. I want to know, who did Jack have to become when the interest rates went to 18%? What strategies was he deploying during those times? I want to learn, because truly so much about success isn't about, for example, as Jim Rohn, who's a fantastic motivational speaker guy, he said, it's not about the $1 million. It's about who you have to become to attain the $1 million. Same thing here. It's not about surviving a market. It's who do I have to become to survive a changing market. And I'm doing my best just to cling to folks who have been through more than one market and survived. A lot of people have been through many markets and not survived. And so I'm not just looking for the guy who's done volume. I'm looking for the guy he's survived the longer.
Yeah.
Because although volume can be a great teacher, it's not the only teacher you need.
It's a huge red flag to me when they're talking about all their strategies today and no one's talking about the market. Like it is just a constant focus of mine, constantly looking, similar to what you're doing, looking back in history to say, what have businesses done in the past? What are in my mind, it's all about diversification strategies for business, right? And that's what we're looking at, because it's unprecedented in the sense that you cannot forecast everything that's going to happen in the future, but you can look at, the results of what people did, of the challenges that they face.
Exactly. Well, and here's the reality. Real estate, I'm an investor, right? But business, this can apply to business and other sides in real estate too. Real estate can make you money, and it can make you a lot of money. It can also lose you money and lose you a lot of money. And I did not get into this to bankrupt my family. On the opposite, I got into this to free my family up from dependencies on other sources. And so there's a level there that this is not about ego. I definitely don't know what I don't know, especially when it comes to a changing market. And so I'll be damned if I don't go seek out and learn so that I can make it through. It's not about being able to necessarily, none of us can predict. It's saying, hey, what safeguards can I build so that I can keep going? And I am trying to play a little bit of offense right now. I mean, Rothschild said it. He said that, when there's the time to buy is when there's blood in the street. The second part of that quote was, sometimes it's your own blood. And so, that's really,
that action that you have to take even when you're down.
There's a level there that, hey, the market is crazy right now. And look, I'm not immune to some of my deals not going according to plan right now, that I'm having to, hey, how can we fix this one? This one's being a little bit more difficult. It's not, selling fast enough, or it's not renting out fast enough, or, hey, we sold this one on financing. We had to take it back. I'm not immune to my deals not going according to plan. We're all getting hurt right now. But at the same time, I'm also wanting to be like, it's not taking me out of the game.
I'm healthy enough to sustain it.
I'm healthy enough to sustain it, to stay. And I'm also able to go play some defense too, even though my own blood is some of the blood in the street right now. Yeah.
Well, I think that's the transition that you had from developing a business to developing a balance sheet. And people forget that. Whether you're applying to real estate or business in general, right now, you need your healthy balance sheet, because that's what allows you to sustain. And people aren't paying attention to that. They're paying attention to cash flow. Great. It feels good when you have it. And when it's stripped and you don't have that balance sheet to rely on, that's when you're in the struggle.
Yeah, it's so critical. Literally, it's been cash in the bank or equity, and the ability to access that equity has been all the difference for me, because so many investors who haven't, and look, I'm a creative investor. The majority of my deals, I have none of my own money into them, which sounds crazy, but you guys know the types of creative deals that I do. Why? Because I see offense, which is buying, properties, that's when I use other people's money. And so I'm not bringing my money to the table for that 98% of the time. But I see my money, the money that comes, the profit that comes out, the cash flow that comes out, that is my defense. That's how I stay. That's how I keep the properties. That's how I stay in the business. Yeah. But too many people, they're like, oh, I've got 50 grand in the bank. Let me go buy another property. That takes a little bit of like the
patience,
the patience part.
Yeah. But so let's go back to the foundation. I think this is important for people to know too, and it plays towards the patience and your intentionality and knowing when you had that identity crisis. I think you realize, as you've told me this before, that, and we teach our business owners this, right? But before you can really get into the ins and nuts and bolts of what you do, you have to have a goal for where you're trying to go. Yeah. And I know that you have a very intentional goal about when you're planning to retire by the time you get done, right? And so a lot of people have a hard time looking beyond one. Some people have a hard time with that, but 3 years is a long way away for some people. 10 years is, a lifetime way.
It's tomorrow, by the way. 10 years is tomorrow. Thinking back 10 years.
I
started my 2026 budget the other day because things are coming up on this year that I wasn't anticipating, and I want to put them in the budget next year. So I've already added it. I mean, it's going to go by so fast. But one of the things we teach our business owners, you have to create a goal for yourself, not just an immediate goal, but a goal for the future. And you have an intentional goal for that. So what is your goal for retirement, and how are you working your way there? Yeah,
it's a great question. One of my biggest mistakes has been I was unclear for so long because my goal was too vague, and I thought it was a goal, but it was actually a very poorly defined and unclear goal. So my goal is very clear that I want 25 nice houses. My definition of nice houses is literally based by location. It's 1990 or newer. So I want like a newer stock properties. I want them in great school districts, great locations, preferably non-flood zones. And I want them to be, our median price point in the greater New Orleans area is $275, give or take. Yeah. I want between I want it to be worth between $250 to $350.
She wants all the unicorns. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So the reality there is, and I want it to be, minimum 3-bedroom, minimum 2-bath, minimum like around 1,200 square feet, and to rent for a minimum $1,500 a month, because that then gives me my ideal client. This is one of the very few, I'm very clear on. The ideal client is someone who can afford $1,500 a month, who wants to live in the best neighborhood, who wants to grow a family in that area or stay in that area for a long period of time. I want it to be an area with anchors, like the best school district. Maybe there's a large church in the area, maybe a large hospital or something, or whatever.
Element.
Something that anchors them there, and they want to be there long term. Those 25 nice houses in nice neighborhoods, I want those. And then, see, I own about 60 properties right now. But the problem was I bought anything in front of me, right? Like, not anything, but a lot of different things, right? And so by getting a lot clearer, I said, I could retire if I wanted to, but this is not where I wanted to end up. These are not the ideal properties I wanted to end up with. And so part of that was I had to say, okay, well, what is the portfolio I'd want to retire with? Because basically, that's the product that I would attract my clients. Yeah. And so then I was like, I want to improve the quality of my product so that I end up with. And again, this is where the gray head mentors when most of my mentors are all in their 70s, I think a lot about retirement, and so from someone who's actively in it. And so working backwards, it was like, Courtney, where do you want to end up? And it's the nicer houses, the younger stock of properties. And so right now, of my nearly 60, only 6 of them apply to that 25. So I am working through selling the balance of those and buying more that fit the 25. And, it's 2025 now. My goal is to be done by 2027, 2028, buying them. And then during the next phase is to restructure my debt on them to where I have safer debt for the long haul. And so ultimately, my goal is to retire by the time I'm 40, which will be in 2040 2030. Oops. And
I was like, dang.
No, by 2030. And so just in a few years, but here's the thing, clarity of what I want. Like down to the point that I tell someone literally my buy box, I can tell them locations, property type, all that. The reality there is then once I have those, I mean, that's also where I have buy-in from my loved one. That's the very clear goal. And I can actually tell you where I'm at on that, right? 6 out of the 25. I've got work to do.
Yeah.
But for so long I was not clear on that goal.
Yeah.
And so that has been so huge. Am I still buying properties that don't qualify for that? Yeah, but those are what I call my supporting characters. My main character is what I call my legacy portfolio. Those other things may support for a period of time, but they're not something I want to keep forever.
Yeah, the chess pieces on the board to help you get where you're trying
exactly.
to go.
They may give me some equity for I step into equity in a few years, I sell, and that equity can pay off a loan or buy another property or whatever.
But just from like the basic standpoint, I mean, having that type of clarity with the goal that you're trying to accomplish, well, it allows you to be so much more intentional about what you're doing with your business, and in creating the business that you wanted, that's going to allow you to create the life you want.
Yep.
Right. So I mean, and a lot of people, their business is their life, and they kind of they lose track of what the purpose of what it is. Yeah. And the purpose of it for you is to create the life that you intended to live and be able to retire when you want to retire. And you have a very clear path to that because you have a very clear goal. Yeah. And that's why when we're doing our business planning with our clients, that's the first day that we go over is like, what is your goals that you want to accomplish? Yeah. So I think that's great.
I'm just over here thinking about what your themes for your retirement party is going to be. I mean, I don't have a lot of time to plan this.
So many
20,
people are
30.
like, are you really going to retire though? Because I truly feel...
You will find something else to do. Let's all be honest. You're Courtney.
No, that's when, I'll be very honest. So when I have them, at that point then, I mean, we plan on starting a family then. So I'll be a lot more of like I'll be having kiddos with me when I'm doing stuff. And at that point then, I probably won't be doing 30 deals a year. I might only do 5 or so. Yeah. I have no idea. I know I won't stop because it's a little too much into my veins.
But you'll have the option.
I no longer have to wake up and go hunt to earn, because at that point, and this is a major key, my income will no longer be labor-based. So that means I can literally get up and not go and work for anything. And that is the goal, is getting away from labor-based income. Now, all my income would come from investments, the properties, right? And so at that point, labor-based income is you have to get up and earn it, right? And if you ever stop, it stops. Now, obviously, with the investment ones, the investments have to be performing and all that. So there's management to that. But that's everything, right?
It's minimal maintenance too.
But in their third party, right? Property managers, things like that. But the reality is at that point, then I'm probably going to be focusing on my like curative title deals, like the ones that are like
the ones you enjoy,
the ones that I enjoy, but don't have as much of the time for or whatever. And those are going to be the ones where maybe I do a few of those and those pay off one of the rentals or something, or send us on a great trip for the year or whatever. And I'll probably still be doing some workshops at that point, because teaching is a vocation for me. It's like the thing where, everyone, it's like you have 2 lives. The one you were born, the day you were born, and then the day that you find out that why you were born. And for me, I truly enjoy teaching. And so there's a level there that I'd probably still do a few of those and still be involved in the community, still do a handful of deals a year. But at that point, then, we're going to be a little bit of jet setting, a little bit of probably like, cleaning up, spit up, and, stuff like that.
Can't wait. Yeah. I could rub it in. My kids will be babysitting because I'll be so done. So done with all of that.
And we'll just be getting started.
I'll just send them over. Exactly. I'll be like, Dylan, Joe, come on. Y'all go help Aunt Courtney. She's got kids now.
There we go.
So I think, before we sign off, I think we would be remiss.
Wait. I know the theme. The hunt is over. We're camo theming the retirement party.
I thought that's when I got married.
The hunt.
I'm just kidding.
The hunt is over. Oh, okay. Well, we can still do that.
That applies to both scenarios. You've the second.
That's
hunt.
Funny.
But I think it would be remiss not to talk about you talked about learning a lot. I want to talk about your book collection, because a lot of times when people ask about what books do you recommend and things like that, I think you and Lauren can both relate to the focal point of both of y'all's houses whenever you walk in is the gigantic bookshelf of books.
It calls us Beauty and the Beast.
I don't read the books. I have an Audible library full of books, not as quite as many as y'all have, but
serial killer.
Yeah.
Hold a book. Hold a book.
John gets mad at me. He's like, "You're not reading, you're listening." Like, I'm consuming the information.
Yeah.
what is your mindset around the books that you have, and how have you collected a lot of the books you have?
Yeah. So for those who don't know, I have about 3,500 books in my home. I call it, library study. When a normal person dreams of their home, they think of like the kitchen and the bathroom. For me, I dream of having a study, like where literally that's where I can go. And maybe when I retire, that's when I'll start writing more books myself and stuff like that. But I'm genuinely curious. And so that's always just been a life hack, right? 95+% of them are nonfiction. So, my spouse they've introduced me to some fiction, and that's one shelf. But the reality is,
Gave her one shelf.
yes,
I'm gonna have to fight harder.
no, she's got two now because the other one's cookbooks and stuff. But the reality is that, I started loving reading as a kid, and it was as a kid, Harry Potter, different things like that. But I really loved Nancy Drew, a lot of the curiosity stuff. But very early on, one of the things I learned was that's a hack in life, is that you can learn from others and you can live 1,000 lives by reading 1,000 books. And so the trade-off is what you can learn in a book is the time it takes you to finish it. And so many books have so many powerful lessons in them that I am a fool to not take advantage of it. And so now, granted, there is a level that it was funny when I was dating. I was like, me and the books are a package deal because it's a lot. It's a lot. But no, I love them. I love them. I love what they can do to change and improve your life. And so I'm constantly saying, hey, how can I improve? And they're a great opportunity to look at them and say, hey, if I need to learn in a certain area. And of the 3,500, I've read 40+% of them. So there is a level that I'm not just collecting, I am consuming, but it definitely has been from a place of also I want to have where I can, pull from them. So if I'm right now, the only books I'm writing are my manuals for my workshops and stuff. So I'll pull from those books and utilize that as a references. So it is in essence still a study where I can use them as reference points.
Library of resources.
Do you lend these books to people?
No, I do not. I do not. I used to a long time ago. I'll be very honest. That's just too much work. And
You got to worry.
They're my little babies. They're my little babies. There is a section that there's one section of my library that's worth a few grand. Just one shelf is worth a few grand. And in the event of
Please tell me that shelf is high.
It is direct eyesight, easily accessible, but it's one that in the event of a fire, I know that I would be like opening up a window and throwing
water.
those out.
I'm thinking girl, we're Louisiana. It's New Orleans. Water lines.
No, actually, I'm paying someone to inventory my library right now for insurance purposes. Literally what edition for that shelf, what edition, is it signed, all that, because that's my prized possessions right there.
That's awesome. Well, this was a lot of great information. I think that anybody who not only is in the real estate business, because you talked a lot about real estate, but just any business owner in general would gain a lot of information and knowledge from listening to you speak. And I know you speak a lot all over town. We do a lot together. We have the real estate segment that we do together and co-host when we interview residential real estate professionals. So I just want to say thank you for everything you've done for us. We've been doing business since I started. I know pretty quickly after you started, and our families, we've done a lot of stuff for just families too. So it's been a fun ride for the last, it's almost 10 years now for me.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it as well. Look, I consider you not just business colleagues and acquaintances, but truly friends and family. So I always enjoy doing stuff with you guys. And I don't partner lightly because so many people are so transactional, and I appreciate the relationship part there. So appreciate you guys. And I always enjoy talking shop with you guys as well. It's fun to be on the other side, like I said, of this.
That's right. We were easy on you.
Yeah. There you go. Hot seat next time. No, I was kidding.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks.